Please welcome Andrew.
Good evening. For my whole entire life, I always believed that God existed. I'm not part of any religious affiliation, but I do, and in fact want to, believe that there is a higher being who rewards us when we do well, who watches us in times of trouble. Frankly, there were some moments when depression overcame, when living another day seemed useless. As I lived another day, however, I realized that when life could not get any worse, it could only get better. Today, I want to share with you some of these moments, the steps I took to overcome them, and the lessons I learned to be a better Andrew Lee. I was 8 years old when I moved to California, and I felt as if I did not have a safe zone. Back then, I was a chubby little Korean kid who could not speak a word of English. When I went to school, the kids used these factors to their advantage. One of them drew a fake passport on a paper, told me to go back to my country, and ran away. Other kids kicked me out of the basketball court. When I tried to socialize and meet new friends, they simply walked away. Even though these are small actions that should not have affected me, there were some moments when I felt I would have been happier if I were physically bullied than becoming blatantly ostracized. The most obvious approach to handle this problem would be to go home and talk to my mother what was happening. However, she had bigger problems that she was dealing on her own at home. Most of you know that my mother passed away due to stage 4 gastric cancer. Most of you do not know, however, the story behind my mother's death. Let me tell you something about her. She was the most caring, courageous woman whom I have ever known, but overall, she was a bit crazy. She always pressured my sister and me to be able to attend the best universities in the world, the Ivy Leagues, for she believed that that was the only way to true happiness in our lives. In 2003, when I didn't study during elementary school, she told me that she was going to send me to Iraq to fight in the war. As a gullible kid, I always believed her, so I literally thought, if I did not study, I would be dead. There were other times when she threw a phone on my head for receiving a C on the test, but I much preferred that than her ways of pressuring me to study, and study. Meanwhile, my mother would be in screaming matches with my father over the phone. While I am pretending to study in my room, I will be hearing my mother swearing, yelling, and the phone thrown on the wall. I realized, however, that this was nothing compared to the times whenever my father and mother met each other. In the beginning of 2008, when my mother only had a couple of months to live, she wanted to live her last months with the whole entire family, including my father. Therefore, we all planned to visit for a couple of days. I remember this one time when I was on the second floor of my father's house, trying to fall asleep at midnight. Everything was silent until I heard screaming. I heard my mother swearing at my father. I heard my mother sobbing in anger. I heard some glass shattering. I even heard a body collapsing on the ground from getting pushed or hit. I heard doors slam shut so loudly that the noise vibrated throughout the entire house. I heard the final door shut when I also heard my father's car accelerating to leave the house, to leave the family. I remember crying on my own, and I remember shaking in fear. I also remember waking up with my mother standing next to me, asking me why I didn't do anything during the fight. Maybe it was because I was only 13 years old. After that incident, my mother lost most of her hair, her skin was becoming pale, and her level activity simply decreased. It was obvious that she did not have many days to live. One day, she told my sister and me to sit next to her, and she told me news that has haunted me even today. You and your sister are not your dad's only children. Your father married another woman before he married me, and he has a son and a daughter. So you have a half-brother and a half-sister who are about 30 years old. To realize that my sister and I were not his only children, it hurt inside. I've been so proud of the fact that I was his only son until that very moment. On the brighter side, her pressure toward my sister and me getting into an Ivy League college made more sense as she continued. Andrew, someday I'm going to die, and then your father has to take care of you. Your father is a scary, strict man. Your sister's smart, so she will survive. But I'm more concerned about you. I don't know what your father is going to do to you, but I hope you will still be happy. You see, your half-brother graduated from University of Chicago. So Andrew, if you don't end up in a college better than UChicago, or even in an Ivy League school, your father won't love you, and you will not get his endowment to support your future. She has been repeating, Andrew, at least get into Cornell, at least get into Cornell, at least get into Cornell. Because according to the rumors that she heard, Cornell is the easiest Ivy League school to be accepted. After my mother passed away, I wanted to make her proud, and I wanted to accomplish that goal so that she could rest in peace in her grave. Therefore, ever since I attended Brooks School, I studied assiduously to receive top grades, played a varsity sport, and sang at a professional level, all to get qualified for an Ivy League school. Not only that, I consider hating my Asian identity because I did not want to repeat what I'd gone through during elementary school. What I realized, however, was that not being myself led me to be farther away instead of being closer to my Brooks peers. With so much pressure on myself and from isolation, I started to become extremely depressed and lonely. Not only I felt that no one at the school cared, but I also wanted to be a regular kid and enjoy the social life at Brooks. Believe it or not, the person who got me through that mess in freshman year was Matt Thomas. Yeah, I know, right? When I told him what was going on with my life, he was the first person who told me that everything was going to be okay. I would just like to give him a brief shout out because without him, I would not have been able to graduate in a week from Brooks School. Even though I overcame all the depression and loneliness I felt, it still did not mean that I accomplished what I initially wanted. The crew preseason of my senior year, which was when all the college decisions came out, was most certainly the worst week of my life. I initially applied to 18 schools, and from day one of preseason, I started getting rejected and rejected from every one of them, even from my safety schools. The worst day of that week was when I got rejected from Harvard, Dartmouth, and Cornell all at the same time. As soon as I saw Cornell's rejection letter, I thought about my mother, and I considered myself as a failure. I failed to satisfy my mother's dreams, and I was worried that my father was going to disown me from his family. The worst was the feeling that all the pressure, beating, my hard work, and sacrifices that I had to overcome since third grade all went to waste. I still remember lying on my bed at Hyatt Hotel, asking myself if I'm actually going to have a future. After all but 2 schools either rejected or waitlisted me, Mr. Orich texted me at 9 p.m. saying that I received a huge package, which included my admission letter from Boston College Carroll School of Management. I was relieved that I received an acceptance letter, but overall, I was not happy. At that time, I was most certain that neither of my parents, alive or dead, would consider me as their son anymore. When I emailed my father about my result, I was scared about what was going to happen to me. I first apologized to him for not getting into any schools in the top 20. And I wrote an entire paragraph about BC Carroll School's top-notch quality of education. His response was, Andrew, I already know that BC is a good school. Congratulations. I could not believe what I was reading. All the pressure that was built up for 10 years of my life vanished in that one moment. As I'm speaking to you right now, I cannot even tell you how proud I am that I'm going to be an Eagle next year. There were times when I despised my mother, even when she was dead. While I studied for SATs, or even stressed about colleges, I blamed my mother, telling myself that I'm suffering all because of her. However, there was a story that completely changed my perspective toward her. During the college process, I explained to my guardian about my situation. how my mother thought about my father disowning me for not getting into a good enough university. Then she told me a story that changed my perspective toward my mother forever. Back then, my guardian was simply my mother's friend, but in 2007, when my mother asked her to be a guardian, she said that that was impossible, telling my mother that she already is taking care of 2 kids. My mother then revealed to her that she was dying, and that she needed someone she could trust to take care of my sister and me. My guardian accepted the offer, saying that she will only do it under Jesus' will. When I heard that story from my guardian, I burst into tears, because that was one of the only times when I knew she cared about me. Throughout my life, I guarantee that there is a higher being who has guided me throughout my life. God is putting me into BC to remain humble and to be close to people whom I care at Massachusetts. God allowed me to connect with my guardian to take care of me in my mother's place. God put me with the racist kids in elementary school, and they put me at Brooks so that I can eventually appreciate my identity as a Korean. By believing that there is God, I believe that everything that happens in my life has a bigger purpose, and therefore, I'm a much happier person today. If there's one thing I love about Brooks School, it's the fact that the teachers deeply care about their students. I would like to thank all the faculty members who have not only taught me, but also the rest of the students to become better people and to overcome tough moments in life. There are a few faculty members who I would like to personally thank for helping me, believing me, and supporting me. Mr. Flanagan, thank you for sitting next to me while I was crying during my freshman year. You were the first faculty member at Brooks who seemed to care about what was happening in my life. Mr. Moles, thank you for supporting MI3. The Chicken Coop project would not have been successful without your guidance. Mr. and Mrs. Keller, thank you for inspiring me to pursue in singing, drumming, and playing guitar. Mr. Orge, I cannot describe in words how much you helped me and how thankful I am. You have been the best advisor, dorm parent, crew coach, and college counselor that anyone can ask for. When I lost C races in crew, when I did not get into my favorite colleges, when I simply felt that my life was crumbling, you were there to support me, give me words of wisdom, listen to me complain constantly. You have inspired me in many ways, and I hope you can inspire other Brooks students as well. I cannot tell you how lucky I am. I grew up under a wealthy family, traveled to many different countries, and most importantly, have many significant relationships that hopefully will last forever. As I head to Boston College, I do not know what to expect, but according to Mr. Skinner, I'm going to have the best 4 years of my life. From looking into Carroll School and meeting prospective students already, I have a feeling that he is absolutely right. I know I only have a week left until graduation. However, if anyone is struggling through stress from family, colleges, or from anything, I urge you to come and talk to me. I want to help because I don't want anyone else to go through the same problems as I have had in my life. For the rest of Brooks students, I wish you all the best of luck, especially finding the college that is right for you. Thank you.